Jess here. Today I wanted to chat with you guys about the fear that you might have that your body just isn't right for ballet. So, right now, there's been some extra conversation around ballet bodies. Catherine Morgan brought some much needed light to the fact that many ballet companies and schools are still body shaming their dancers, even as we saw, like very well known and famous dancers like Katie herself. And they're using tactics that are not productive and methods that can actually promote eating disorders and body dysmorphia. And I've heard from clients of mine since that all came out and dancers shared their own stories and experiences being body shamed in companies and the different ways they were sort of told, whether it was right up front or some kind of masked or veiled way of revealing this information, that they were told their body was not right for dance and that it should change and something needed to be different. And so I've heard from my clients since all of this came out that, and also from dancers on Instagram, just via DM, that for some young dancers, this has validated fears that in ballet, if your body is not a certain way, you will be getting all of this scrutiny and criticism and losing jobs and losing roles and things like that. So many of them had the fears, but I think that a lot of the body positivity people, myself included, do say things like everybody can dance and all bodies are ballet bodies. And yet now we know that at the upper levels of ballet companies, these ideas of inclusion are not necessarily being embraced. And so dancers, young dancers especially, but I would say even those in companies already, or, perhaps dancers who have been in careers for a little bit longer, are really being faced with the fact that this idea of inclusion is not embraced at the upper levels. And that's scary. And I think that's scary, especially if you're pursuing dance and you've been sort of telling yourself that things are going to work out, you're going to keep working and achieve your goals and be able to get a job and dance the roles you would like to dance. And you don't have to be so obsessive over your shape anymore. And I would really agree with that. But we have to talk about this fear now that you might be feeling in hearing some of this news or hearing some of these stories that dancers have experienced. Let's talk about working through the fear. That's what I want to do today. One of my favorite quotes is feel the fear and do it anyway. That's something I like to apply in my life as much as possible. With the whole dancer and putting myself out there on video and things like that. When I first started doing it, it was really scary. It's gotten much easier over time, but I still have moments of fear and butterflies and stuff like that. But I think that pushing through it is essential. And in dance, this is huge because you might feel fear around auditions. You might feel fear around when you're starting out in a company. You might feel fear, especially with all this body talk, that your body's not right. And it could make you think you should just quit or give up or not audition for some companies because of these messages we've heard and all of that. So I want you to feel the fear and do it anyway. I think this applies here especially because your body is already perfect for dancing. Everybody is a ballet body. If you're dancing, you have a ballet body, right? Or if you're doing ballet, you have a ballet body. If you're doing other forms of dance, you have a dance body. Beautiful. We've got to really work on believing that. And here's the thing, there's plenty of things that you can't change about your body, right? We have different bone structure and musculature and things like that. Working towards acceptance of the things that are not within your control is going to allow you to then work fully with what you've got. You're not going to be stuck in that, oh, if only I looked like her mentality, if only I had her body, then I would be getting the job. Then things would be easier for me, right? We want to really work towards that place of acceptance. This is who I am. This is my body shape. And I'm going to do my best with what I have. I can say that now, too, after not dancing professionally for the last handful of years and having had that experience of dancing professionally, the way my body and musculature has changed in doing different forms of exercise and things like that has been very eye-opening for me. So I think that we need to also see that when we're in that place of acceptance, there are some things we can shift and adjust in positive and healthy ways that may make a difference, and that's worth exploring as well. And it's not about fitting into someone else's idea of what your body should be, but it's just about your own desires and goals. And we're going to talk a little bit too about the aesthetic piece, because I want you to shift away from just being focused on what my body looks like. So a lot can be maximized, right? The challenge is making your body goals about performance and how you feel in your body versus aesthetic. And I had this conversation recently on a podcast interview about how my goal setting tactics or strategies for people are not quite, I guess, what the best known goal setting tactics and strategies are, because so many people are, and I've spoken about the whole specific, measurable, attainable, SMART acronym for goal setting. And I get it, and I think it's valid. But I think that when it comes to a dance body, we can't get obsessed with specific in the mindset or the idea that it has to be like a specific number or a very specific look. I think that for dancers, your goals around your body are going to best serve you when it's about your energy and how you feel and your strength and how you're actually performing in classes and rehearsals versus how you look. And so those are some great body goals. I want to feel empowered in my body. I want to feel powerful and strong and capable, so things like that. And even if it is more of a feeling, when you're really in tune with yourself, you can get to that specific feeling and say, wow, I do feel super strong in class. I do feel really capable. I do feel like I can tackle new choreography and actually get through it and perform at my peak level. So this is the way we want to sort of frame goals and thoughts around our bodies. But when we're in this, we hear this argument that, well, ballet is an aesthetic art form. It's true to a point. The audience is taking in visually what they see on the stage or in, these days in video or whatever. However, when you take your focus off of the physical aesthetic, you can still focus on shapes and lines, etc. But take it off of the physical form and you'll start to really tune into how food and feelings and self-love are manifesting within you. So I'm going to give you some questions you can ask yourself in these different areas and just start to think about it now. If you want to put pen to paper and write some things down, that's always something that I encourage all of my both one-on-one and group coaching clients to do, because writing is huge. Writing more so than typing can really reveal things to ourselves and give us clarity and confidence in areas that we might not have had otherwise. So tuning into food. How is the food you eat making you feel? There's ideas and advice to just eat whatever you want, whenever you want, whenever you want. And there's a piece of that I agree with, but I think that we have to also tune into how those whatever you want to eat, whenever you want to eat it, foods make you feel. And they might not always make you feel great. And you have to accept that and say, okay, maybe as much as this food tastes good in my mouth, it doesn't serve me because it makes me feel gross or just not energetic or not good. That's what we want to focus on. When are you at a point of satisfaction? So this is about, tuning into your hunger and fullness cues, really listening to your body, what it's telling you, what your needs are based on the energy requirements that you're putting on yourself. Are you allowing indulgences? Because this is essential. And sometimes dancers think we can never indulge. I should never eat cake, cookies, candy, sweets. You should possibly avoid them to a point if they don't make you feel good, but that's going back to question 1, something to think about. Do you put focus on nutrient density? This is really important to me at The Whole Dancer. This idea that yes, your body is your instrument and we want to think about our fuel and how it's actually serving us. Higher nutrient density foods that contain a greater variety and amount of vitamins and minerals are going to serve your dancing, your immunity, your energy, all of that stuff. So I think that dancers especially have to put that thought process around their food choices. So you want to make sure you're doing that. Do you put a focus on nutrient density? That's something to ask yourself. Have you released the need to count or obsess over numbers? So if you're obsessively counting calories, if you're tracking macros and trying to go crazy in those areas, we've got to really release that. But ask yourself, am I still obsessing in those areas? What can I do to adjust? Those are the food questions. Some feelings questions. Tuning into feelings. When there are no mirrors around, how do you feel in your body? This for me was big when I started taking yoga, which was actually, I was still dancing. It didn't fully, internalize at the time. But yoga was a big step for me in starting to feel, the strength and power of my body without worrying about how it looked, because there were no mirrors in the yoga studio where I was going. And I think if you're going to a yoga studio with mirrors, pick a new one, because I think that one of the powerful pieces of yoga, especially if you have yoga teachers who elicit these thoughts and feelings as well, is to tune into your strength and flexibility and power and ability without thinking about how it looks. What is the sensation of dancing like? We don't always pause and think about that stuff. Why do you love to move and dance? Why do you love it? Maybe some of these questions would be helpful too, just if you're lacking any sort of motivation or inspiration right now. So another good reason to put some attention on some of these questions and sit and think and do some writing. How does it feel to be at your strongest and most energized? Which of course requires adequate fuel. So, if you're not putting that focus on the nutrient density and thinking about the fuel and how it's powering your body, you might be missing out on some of the opportunities to feel your most strongest, your most strongest, your strongest, and your most energized. And then self-love, some questions in self-love. When you look in the mirror, can you pick out some good things? For dancers, this can sometimes be a struggle depending on where you are with body image, for sure. Are you grateful for what your body allows you to do? I'm a big fan of a gratitude list, morning or evening. The last video I did, I spoke about this a bit, so you can check that one out as well. Can you work towards acceptance regardless of what your body might look like? And keep in mind, if you're struggling with any of these questions, feel free to comment or send me a private message, and I can help maybe come up with some insights into where the thoughts or feelings are coming from, or email me, jess@thewholedancer.com. Do you see your true value even in dance? That comes from who you are on the inside. As dancers, it's, externally focused and external validation. So we sometimes don't give ourselves personal validation based on, just being a good person. You are worthy and you are enough just because of who you are as a person and being a good human and being considerate of those around you, and also being considerate and caring for yourself. So do you see your true value on the inside? So seeing the good is going to help you work through the fear that your body isn't right for ballet. And things are shifting and evolving in dance. I will say that's totally true, but it's going to take time. And I think that, many dancers have talked about how it's, generations now who are training and perhaps starting out, and even, the professional dancers now who are much more aware of the impact that these things are having on people mentally. And I think we need more of those dancers to be moving up into leadership positions and things like that for it to really infiltrate schools and companies. More dancers have to speak out, I think, and share their stories and experiences so that we see the importance of making these shifts at every level. Parents, I think, can get involved with their at the schools where their dancers are training. Don't send your sons and daughters to schools where you've heard they're giving this negative body feedback and are, saying things that drive dancers to eating disorders, because these decisions have a huge impact on, where the success lies. And it's something too that there are companies already who have made huge strides and have much greater amounts of body positivity. And I hear from clients in both positions. I hear from dancers who are at schools that are harmful, or dancers who are professionals now who were at schools that were harmful, and how that's impacted them in their professional trajectories. And then I also hear from dancers who are already dancing professionally. And so I hear about the companies that are consistently the culprits, consistently the companies that are giving this negative sort of feedback. Or, we heard a number of stories about Miami City Ballet. I'm not going to name other names, but I could, because I do hear about the same schools and companies over and over again as the ones who are possibly the worst offenders in these areas. So we have to stay mindful of that, and know, dancers, that if you get into a company and you're in this negative environment, the key for you might be looking for your next step sooner than you had planned and finding a different company where your body is accepted and celebrated at your healthiest, because that's where we really want to go with this. If you want some more support towards moving to a place of radical self-love and self-acceptance, getting there honestly does make your confidence skyrocket, and your body will shift in the way that you likely desire without being obsessive and crazy about it. When you get to that place of just radical self-love and acceptance exactly as you are, you'll be less stressed around food, and that makes things shift. So this is some of what we'll talk about in the free Best Body Workshop that I'll be holding on Wednesday, December 9th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll include a link to join here in this info. But if you have any other questions, please let me know. I will also start enrolling the Dancer's Best Body program on Wednesday, the 9th. It will open for enrollment. Enrollment's happening in December. The program will happen in January. I also am offering a scholarship for one dancer for that program. It's a $497 value for the scholarship. And if you're interested in applying for the scholarship and you're on the Whole Dancer email list, you should have already received some emails about it. If you're not on that list, shoot me an email or a message here on Facebook. The email address to reach me is jess@thewholedancer.com, and I can send you the link to apply for that scholarship. But definitely join me for the workshop. Either way, it's free, no risk. We'll be speaking through or working through the Whole Dancer 7-step Best Body process that includes a lot of super positive mindset strategies that should help you get closer to your goals, again, in a non-obsessive and non-numbers focused way. Thanks so much for tuning in again, dancers, and I will chat with you all next time.